No, right?
It's 5:15. So I'll call the meeting to order. We have an action-packed agenda today, and we'll lead it off with Jessica.
Hi friends, thank you for gathering tonight. My name is Jess Dutel. I serve as Director of Student Life and Community Impact at Plymouth State. And I am here to give our updates and run through the agenda. I will be providing all the updates this evening and answering the questions that I can answer. And if something comes up that I don't have the information on, happy to go back to campus and find the information you're looking for and get back to you. Do you want me to jump in?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to publicly acknowledge Scott Whedon, our incredible town manager. We were really excited to award him with our Campus Compact President's Award yesterday. So delighted to have Scott and also Bill Bolton join us in Manchester for the Campus Compact President's Awards. And I know it meant a lot to President Burks to acknowledge you and recognize your partnership and the great work you're doing in that way. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you.
Excellent job, Scott.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And from my perspective, it's been such a pleasure and an honor working alongside you. And I think we have gotten to a really great place in terms of the plans that we have for our partnerships and the ways that you have extended opportunities to our students. Scott comes to our Student Senate meeting, so really excited about that. And the first thing I'm going to start talking about this evening is our orientation efforts. Another highlight being that Scott has offered to be center stage in welcoming our new Panthers to the Plymouth community. And of course you were there for January and our transfer orientation, and just really grateful for your involvement, because I think something that's really important is making sure that our Plymouth State students feel welcomed not only on campus, but the broader community, and that they know that they're a part of a larger community, that the town of Plymouth isn't just the backdrop for their learning over 4 years, but it really is a wonderful place filled with incredible people who care about them. And of course, when we more intentionally root them in the community and they get to know their neighbors and they get to know Scott, then we see them engage in more positive, more pro-social ways. So thank you for that. I did bring the handout, happy to provide hopefully important dates that we're hoping the community is aware of, and that includes our orientation. So we have summer orientation starting June 17th. When we get to the part of the agenda where we're talking about enrollment, we have seen a lot of issues with FAFSA, and so we do not at this point have a projection on how many incoming students our new class we're going to have. And so we anticipate, because of those delays with the financial aid piece, we anticipate having smaller A and B sessions for orientation. We think we'll probably be able to fill sessions C and D, and of course the entire class will be moving in the weekend of the 23rd. So a shout out and a thank you in advance to Scott for participating with all those dates. Are there any questions about orientation that I can answer? I hope that this is more conversational than just a presentation. So please don't wait till the end for your questions or comments, concerns, if you have any.
How many people typically have attended orientation in the past?
So typically we have a class around 1,000, give or take. And so we have seen in the past a more even distribution among the sessions. The last session is probably the most heavily attended, because for those students and families that are making their decisions to come to Plymouth, sometimes that takes a little longer and they try to get in right at the last minute for orientation. So it really depends on the number of students that we have. We see about 200 per session typically, with some of our students way out of the region. For example, if we have a student coming in from, the West Coast, they typically use the virtual session because of the expenses to come for one weekend. So sometimes we see some of those families hold off on attending orientation in person, though that is ideal. And our statistics do inform us that if students come and they have that in-person experience, we're more likely to see them return in the fall and then retain them longer term. So orientation is a really important first step in connecting with those students, and again, connecting students not only to campus, but the broader community as well.
I think one of the more important parts, and I totally agree with all that, Jess, but the reason I think it's important for the town to be there is that not only are you talking to the students, you're talking to their parents. And their parents understand what the town's expectation is of being a community partner and being responsible in the compact area of the town, and how we look at the students, how we welcome the students, but we also hold them accountable for actions that take place. And I think it's important that the parents hear that message right from the start, and it resonates with them, I'm sure.
It certainly resonates with parents, and as a parent of a college student, I really appreciated the opportunity to connect with some of the campus professionals that would be working with my student and really getting a sense of how he was going to be supported. So I think it goes a long way with parents and family members for sure. I also wanted to mention that we're happy to work with Amy Lee and Melinda Barnsley and our voter and election volunteers to host a new voter registration table at each one of our orientation dates. So I think that's another great example of how we're collaborating with the town and hopefully easing those long lines on election days, and certainly as we go into a national election year. And I think from a parent perspective, it's going to be very attractive to say, oh, this is your new community, and we're here to help you register to vote if you so choose. So another way that we are working together. I wanted to just give a little insight on student life in general at PSU, and it encompasses 3 areas. So again, I'm happy to serve as one of our directors, and those 3 areas that I oversee being community impact. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our Office of Community Impact, our Office of Campus Recreation, and that includes the Hub Fitness Center, our esports, all of our club and intramural sports, our outdoor center, and then lastly, the Office of Student Experience. And that office really ushers in our new Panthers and oversees orientation efforts and then integrates them into campus-wide traditions and programs and oversees all the student activities, which would include Spring Fling, which we're also going to talk about this evening. So that's really just the snapshot of what student life encompasses, and really our overarching goal is to create a sense of belonging among our students and make sure that they are connected in meaningful and transformative ways to the broader community through programs, through events, through volunteerism, through healthy engagement on campus and beyond. So that is our purpose. I also included on the flyer a QR code to our online platform called Plymouth Activities website, or the PAW. You see what we did there with the Panther Paw? I thought you would like that. So this gives you an understanding of the types of activities and programs that we have available. We run on average 6 events per day on campus. So what we tell parents and families is if your student calls home and says there's nothing to do here, they're not telling you the entire truth. And so we're happy to share this not just with students, but community members, with parents and family members, so that they get a better idea of the types of programs that we have available on a daily basis. You can also see our over 80 clubs and organization profiles on the PAW. So a lot of this is public facing. Some of it is non-public facing, of course. So the membership information, you're not going to see certain student names associated with clubs because that's confidential information. But you will see the different purpose and different activities associated with those clubs and organizations. So something interesting for you to look through. You will see Spring Fling as a part of the PAW now, and we're really excited to talk through that. And before I get to Spring Fling, wanted to, well, first check in. Are there any questions, comments?
You mentioned volunteers. Yeah. Do you have any statistics on how many volunteer opportunities that students take place in the town of Plymouth?
Great question and perfect segue, because now I'm going to talk about the Office of Community Impact. So yes, we have that data, and I didn't print enough copies for everyone here, but I do have a few copies of our annual report, which includes, Ted, everything in terms of how many volunteers, how many partners, what were the projects like, and data and statistics across the board for student life. So happy to share that with you. This is
there a
from
link?
last academic year.
Is there a link for that on the website?
I could get you a link. It is on our website. So if you go to plymouth.edu and you search student life, there's a link right to our annual report from AY 22-23, right on the homepage, on our student life homepage, I should say. So definitely check that out, and it gives you more of a context of what we're doing, what our co-curricular engagement model is, everything that students, we hope they're learning academically that supports President Burke's and his vision for the cluster model, which integrates PSU's habits of mind. We also integrate those learning outcomes into our co-curricular activities. So in a sense, and what our team likes to say is it's like baking in the vegetables, right? When you like puree the vegetables and you bake it into something delicious like mac and cheese, the students don't necessarily know that we have learning outcomes associated with everything that they're experiencing, including spring fling. But we certainly want them to have meaningful opportunities where they're taking what they're learning in their curriculum and their classroom settings and apply it to co-curricular engagement through their leadership with clubs and organizations, through their volunteer work, and through hosting some of our community-wide events. And so we do assess all of that. We have learning objectives, and we assess their learning and what they are garnering in terms of their leadership skills in a number of different ways, including reflections, including feedback surveys, and running focus groups. So you would get a sense of all of that in this annual report, including some of the numbers, and more importantly, in my mind, some of that more qualitative data in terms of what our students experiencing and how transformative those experiences can be. So to answer some of what you're getting at, we have established over 100 partners. We have over 100 local nonprofit and community-based partners that we work with through the Office of Community Impact. And last academic year, we had 577 student placements with those partners doing really great work. And so for me, and my background is in nonprofit leadership before I came into academia. And so for me, that's a really important part of my work, but really the student experience, especially in this small community where we have so many nonprofits doing really important work. I have a lot of experience with the PEMI Youth Center, so in full transparency, I'm still connected as a board member, but I can speak for that organization that they wouldn't be able to deliver their program without the many PSU volunteer students. They have 2 paid staff members, and then the rest of their staff are PSU students. So a really important part of the work that we're doing, which is really transformative for our students as well.
I think that there's 3 things that have happened over the last year and a half, so to speak, is that we have volunteers from the university that are remapping the cemetery because we truly don't have an online map of the cemetery or any type of documentation that is electronic for that. So they volunteered to take on that project. The other thing is the cleanup around town, that they work with the Parks Department on cleaning up, but more importantly, the volunteers that volunteer at the Recreation Department, at the after-school center, and summer programs, and different programs that are presented. The other piece is that we currently have 2 interns working from Plymouth State University with the town, one at the police department and one in the planning department, which both have are going towards the degrees, obviously, in criminal justice. And then the young lady that we just brought into planning and development has a multitude of experience on several different things, one being World Health, but has an absolute interest in planning and development in municipal government. So both interns have worked out very well. And the opportunity, and I know, Tom, you and your department take advantage of it, is the job fairs. And attending all of the job fairs to see if we can recruit some of the university students to come into the fire department as call per diem folks. But I think with regards to that, that just kind of expands upon that piece a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And a story that I do have permission to share is one of our graduating PSU students is also working down at the PEMU Center, who happened to be 11 when I used to work down at the PEMU Center. And she had said one afternoon, Jess, someday I want your job. We have been able to retain this incredible young leader in the community who graduated from Plymouth Regional High School, is about to graduate from PSU, and now is working for one of our nonprofits doing important work in the community. So a really exciting success story that I like to share whenever I can, of course with her permission. And so I think that speaks to the partnership and the connection. I also wanted to mention that we have a bi-weekly program that we run in partnership with the Bridge House. So we have student leaders who go over to the Bridge House and prepare and share a meal with their residents there. We also have an ongoing connection with the youth center, a craft day that's run also bi-weekly. Of course, we work very closely with the recreation department. We run the Angel Tree Project every year that gathers gifts for over 300 local children and youth. So a lot of really meaningful work happening side by side with our local partners. And our philosophy is that we want every single project that students volunteer in and every single experience they have in terms of their service learning and their volunteer efforts to be community identified and driven, meaning that we're really following the lead of the community and the wisdom of the community. We're not going to come off of campus and say, you know what we think you should do here, without having any context, understanding why things work the way they do, why the budget works the way they do, and why we can't just say, oh, well, you know, if we had $1 million, we think you should hire 5 more staff members and then your problems would be solved. So really working to educate and mentor young leaders who are intentional, who understand their role in community, who work in solidarity with the leaders doing the work. And that is something that we hold top priority in making sure that all those projects are ethically oriented and students understand the role that they play. So that is mainly the Office of Community Impact. We also have this social action trip program. We just had a trip come back from Acadia National Park in Maine, and they were engaging in a citizen science project looking at light pollution, so they really had a good time up there. This past January, we sent a group of students to Jamaica, and I had the pleasure of being on that trip. It was my 5th time back, and I couldn't be more proud of that group of students. They did phenomenal work. They volunteered in local schools. They helped to rebuild a community park that actually Plymouth State helped to build initially in 2017. So they had a great experience, and it was really fun working alongside them. These are transformative opportunities for our students. So really thankful for the support that we get from our community in making these opportunities possible. And I do want to certainly lift up and thank Interlakes and Jeff and the team for being supportive of the Office of Community Impact, our trips, and our Student Support Foundation, which is also connected with the Office of Community Impact. And the Student Support Foundation gives out emergency grants and financial opportunities for students who need to have their basic needs met, who are financially insecure, who are food insecure, and we also run our on-campus community cupboard food pantry. So thank you so much for your support. We did have a really successful Empty Bowls project this past winter, which raised almost $2,000 in support of our pantry and the efforts to make sure that our students have their basic needs met. So that's an overview of the Office of Community Impact. Any questions about that work? Okay, so moving on to the next fun topic, which happens to be Spring Fling. There might be some questions about this, but I did provide some information on the handout. So on the flip side of the handout, we just announced today that we are bringing Lil Skies to Spring Fling. Do y'all know who Lil Skies is? Okay, I won't tell them. Full disclosure, I recently found out who Lil Skies is. He is a rap artist. And so this year, first year in a while that we have a live artist, in addition to a student band opener and also our Groove Boston DJ. So we'll start with the student band opener. Doors will open at 8:30 on Saturday, April 27th. We will then have Lil Skies perform, and then we will end the night with the DJ. Our strategy is to keep the concert going until midnight so that we can make sure our concert participants are as tired as possible, because hopefully they have so much fun. We are feeding them throughout, providing water throughout, so there will be free pizza, free water. There will also be, as in years past, the 21 plus beer tent, beer garden, which will be inspected by the State Liquor Commission and is run by PSU Dining, and will be fenced off appropriately, so only 21 plus can enter. Tickets this year will be $10 each. Last year it was free for students. This year $10 to offset the additional expense of Lil Skies, and $25 for guests with no day of sale for guests. So if students don't plan ahead and register their guests, purchase that guest ticket, they cannot just bring someone day of. And that has been really important for us, because the issues that we have experienced in terms of damage or unfortunate behaviors have really come from those guests that don't necessarily have a stake in this community. So unfortunately, Chief LaFave couldn't be here this evening, but he is working and certainly leading the security team, including Plymouth PD, local officers, and also, again, we are contracting with Green Mountain Security. So we will be fully staffed.
And I think the other thing is, Chief, you probably have an ambulance detail that night as well, same as you have in years past.
Thank you.
And I know Alex has met with Steve on a couple occasions with regards to how things will set up and equipment that will be provided during that period as well.
Yep. And so it will be noisy, and we know that. And I'm sure we will have local residents who hear the bass during the concert. I have shared in previous CCC meetings that for 10 years, my family and I lived on Russell Street, and we had college student neighbors, and it was loud, and we were there through when the Red Sox won the World Series, and so I can absolutely empathize with what it means to be a community member and a resident the night of Spring Fling or any large celebratory events. And also, we are doing everything we can to keep it as safe as possible, to make sure that students do have this really exciting opportunity to celebrate this academic year and to engage in this fun together. And knowing that our team is certified in crowd control, that we have all the necessary first responders on site, and that we'll do everything within our power to make sure it is safe first and foremost and really fun. So. Any other things about Spring Fling? I also included information about Senior Week. Senior Week will take place the week of April 29th. We have an awards banquet. We have an event downtown, Pints with PSU. We have the Red Sox game that we are busing students to. We have Last Taste of Plymouth, a formal. I think important to note is that our class of 2021 is the first class we're graduating that really didn't have a traditional commencement from high school. They didn't have that traditional high school graduation because of the pandemic. They are so excited about a real graduation, is what they've been referring to it as. And they also didn't experience prom. So that senior formal is their version of prom, and they couldn't be more excited. That will take place on the Alumni Green, right outside the hub, unless it is raining, in which case it will be down at the Ice Arena, the Welcome Center. We have a mechanical bull coming. That's the last rodeo. And of course, in partnership with our friends and colleagues at Residential Life, we have the late night breakfast, which is offered for all students. So that will be a busy week coming up for seniors and for the general student body. And then we have graduate commencement on Friday, May 10th, and undergraduate commencement on Saturday, May 11th. So it is going to be busy that weekend, and expect traffic. So that is what I have for you in terms of Spring Fling and upcoming spring events. Anything to add?
Not just that, we have a construction meeting next Tuesday, and the plan is to make sure for the weekend of the 10th that that area of town, the northern area of town, is ready to go, cleaned up, and looks presentable for that weekend.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then lastly, on my end, I am gonna give a brief enrollment update. And of course, our VP of enrollment, Joanne Landers, is not here, but I did connect with her today. And so she did provide me with some points and highlights that she wanted to share with you all. And happy to answer questions to the best of my ability, but also if I can't answer, happy to reconnect with Joanne and get you the information that you might be looking for. So unfortunately this year, because of FAFSA, which I mentioned at the start, and the delays with that process, we have not yet given out all of the financial aid packages to students who applied to Plymouth State. And it is quite unfortunate because it has delayed our timeline quite a bit. We typically have deposits due May 1st, and this year we had to push back the deadline to June 1st. And so it is really difficult for us to project what the incoming class is going to look like. Again, we typically are around 1,000. We love it when we have like 1,200 come in. And so I'm not prepared to even conservatively give an estimate just based on where we are with FAFSA. However, what is really, I think, more positive is despite the fact that many students don't even yet have their financial aid package, some families have gone forward and deposited. And so we have over 400 deposits, which is promising at this point without those financial aid packages going out. And again, as a parent, I would not be committing to a school without knowing the financial implications, right? And I think that is very much true, especially for a public institution. The majority of our students really depend on that government funding. And so that is very telling. And we are thinking about how we pivot for not just accepted student days. Joanne and her team did add an additional accepted student day, but also how that impacts our orientation, how that then impacts all of our programs through the next academic year. Because all of Student Life programs, from volunteer projects to Spring Fling, Ski Day, everything that we do is funded by student activity fees. And so that means that our budget is very much dependent on enrollment and how many students that we have, how many students are paying into that fee. And so it's really hard to project and even plan for the next academic year because of that. So Joanne did want me to make sure that you know that we did push back that deadline, and we will have a better ability to project come June 1st. And so I will certainly keep Scott updated, happy to meet with Scott on a monthly basis. And as those numbers do start to roll in, that is something that, of course, we can share. And hopefully very soon, this spring, we'll be able to anticipate what that incoming class looks like. Coupled with the decline in enrollment across higher ed, this has been concerning, but again, I'm a relentless optimist. I think that the fact that we have as many deposits as we do at this point is very positive, and I believe wholeheartedly in PSU, in the cluster vision, in what we offer in terms of not just what the campus experience is like, but the broader community experience is like. And I am an alum myself. I graduated in 2003, 2004, was having so much fun, decided to do more work and graduate again in 2020. And so I know that, you know, what we do offer students is a really wonderful, comprehensive experience. And so though we are experiencing challenges with this enrollment cycle, I am very hopeful that we will be able to meet the numbers we are hoping to meet. So, and I have a lot of faith in Joanne and our enrollment team. They're doing some really great work. So I know that President Burks and Vice President Tracy Claybaugh and other cabinet members were here for the quarterly meeting and shared very much what I just shared, reshared, but that's where we're at right now with enrollment. Yeah, Jeff.
Do you know, are any of the dorms or student apartments going to be shut down for any kind of maintenance or anything like that for the 24-25 school year?
I know over the summer we do have some maintenance projects planned, including the apartments. I know that Vice President Claybaugh did share about some of the issues that we have been experiencing in the apartments and the plans going forward, which have been included in the master plan that was discussed. I don't know at this time if any of the res halls will be offline because of that. That is a res life question that I'm happy to ask, and I'm not sure if that has been determined yet, but happy to stay in touch and certainly let you know. Because I do want to acknowledge that impacts our local landlords and the work that you do. Yeah. Other questions?
Nope, not yet.
So I turn it over to you, Scott.
So I guess from a Plymouth State University and town partnership is that over the past year, we've expanded some things based on sustainability of both the town and the university. And a couple of those things is obviously we have been allowed to use the parking lots here on Court Street. And again, this summer, we will be able to utilize those during the downtown construction project. Another area is, you've probably noticed traveling along Highland Street in the morning, that Plymouth State University security detail does the crossing guard detail at Highland Street and Old Ward Bridge Road and Reservoir Road. And that was because Alex had posted this position. We had a gentleman who retired over a year ago now, and we posted the position, had no applicants for the position. So in trying to be creative, Alex worked with Steve Lefebvre, and we came up with, well, if the university security could do the crossing in the morning, there was a shortfall on coverage for policing in the afternoon of a 3 to 4 hour block. So the trade-off was, if you do the crossing in the morning and the afternoon, we'll cover the 3 hours of police coverage on campus. And that's worked out very well. We haven't had any problems or issues with that. The other part is, everybody knows how the labor market is, and Plymouth State University Police has had difficulty in hiring officers. So we have been able to provide officers to cover miscellaneous shifts when requested at a detail rate. And Plymouth State University has paid for those detail rates throughout since September, Alex, give or take? Since September. So trying to work collaboratively in that and work with what we can do to create sustainability for both the university and the town with regards to services that go back and forth. Another piece is, we're going to be having trash receptacles on either side of the bridge. We've worked with Holderness on this, as well as Robert in the Parks Department. And the nice part is, we'll provide the trash receptacle on the Plymouth side, and Holderness will provide the trash receptacle on the Holderness side, but facility services will be picking up the trash and emptying it. So it won't be another responsibility of the recycling center or the Parks Department. Facility services is going to empty those, whether it's daily or weekly, because I think we've all seen the trash that gets thrown over the edge of the bridge on the Heritage Trail, and making sure. And this actually was brought to us by a group of Plymouth State University students that wanted to undertake this, and we gave them the charge of talking to both towns and trying to figure out a solution on how the receptacles would be picked up, and they did that. And it was a volunteer group that put that together. So those are some of the things. I think the other things we've talked about is the volunteering that the university students do specifically with the town of Plymouth, as well as the internship that we have, really shows that I think we've taken a stronger interest in providing and strengthening and collaborating with the university than what we have in the past. So I think those are some of the PSU town partnerships that I see today. And I know people always have the concern of, is the university paying their share? And I think what's important to know, as of the end of February, we had received $533,556 from the university. 400 of that is for the life safety services agreement, but the other is miscellaneous for dispatch, for police details, for ambulance details, fire services, that they have stepped up and paid based on the requirement for us to provide those services back to the university. So that number will grow as we work through the year, but that's just in the cash value of what they've paid, not taking into consideration to the taxes that are paid on the Citizens Bank building here on Highland Street. The other positive note that I think is important to acknowledge is that the university approached our assessing department and said, we have 4 or 5 properties that we really want you to take a look at, because we rent those to professors or somebody within the university. Those properties had been tax exempt. So our assessing firm, Whitney Consultants, are working with the university to, they'll go on the tax roll next April. The 4 properties that have been identified and will be taxable properties that are owned by Plymouth State University. So I think just that relationship of opening up and them communicating with us being transparent and communicating back with them, has really benefited the town over the last 15, 18 months in moving our relationship forward.
Excellent. Good to
Yes,
hear.
I would just add something that the manager mentioned earlier about the PSU students on the fire department. We currently have 5, and all of them are or will be certified, some EMT, some fire, some both. And at least 2 of those were a direct result of that part-time job there. So it's worth it for us to be doing that. One of them's a freshman, she's an EMT, hopefully she'll stay for 4 years, and it's a good collaboration. And
Thank you.
that's up, and there's 2 more in the pipeline, as a matter of fact, that have applied.
That's so good to hear. Thank you, Chief. I think it's really important to note that we, from a Plymouth State perspective, really appreciate all of our local partners in helping to mentor our students, because they are currently leading throughout the community, and we hope to retain them here. We live in a state where we are losing a lot of our young people, and I've shared recently that if it weren't for working for the University System of New Hampshire and the tuition benefit that I receive as an employee, it would have been less expensive for me to send my son to college out of state. And so it's really important that we retain those young people and that we keep advocating at a state level for additional resources to support our education system. Yeah, so thank you for that.
One other thing is that the university has included us in different search committees for critical positions at the university, and I was fortunate enough to sit on the Plymouth State University Police Department search for their police chief, and I think we're fortunate that Steve Lefebvre did receive that position based on a nationwide search and quite a lengthy interview process that I participated in, and I just think that knowing Steve's background in the town of Plymouth and the collaborative work ethic that he has had with Alex in the police department is a true benefit. But one of the more recent searches is currently looking for a crisis intervention clinical worker that would report directly to the police department in the psychiatry department at the
our
university.
counseling center.
And what's important about that is that Plymouth State University went out and sought a Department of Justice grant to fund this position. And that position is going to be one that is called out after hours with mental health or behavioral health issues with the university students. So not only those students in dorms, but those students that are in off-campus housing. So it's going to help Alex and his team when they come upon an individual that is in crisis, that is having a behavioral health issue, mental health issue, that we'll be able to call, the police department will be able to call and get this resource to come out and assist them with whether they're taken to Spear Memorial Hospital, whether Lakes Region Mental Health is contacted to provide this student some assistance in getting through the crisis that they're experiencing. So another benefit that's going to be part of the town and utilized by the town. And we know in today's society, the amount of behavioral health and mental health issues that are taking place, not only in the local schools, but at the university level, is astronomical. And the counselors at Plymouth State University are back-to-back appointments 5 days a week. So, and there's how many counselors, Jess?
So there is a team of 8 clinicians, and including the director of the counseling center. They have avoided a wait list thus far, but like Scott mentioned, they're back to back to back. And of course, we have seen mental health challenges prior to COVID that has only compounded since COVID and continues to increase. And so I think this is going to be a great step in the right direction with this new position, and happy to serve on the search committee with Scott. And certainly it is needed. Right now we do have and will sustain a contract with Lakes Region Mental Health. So after hours, after counseling center hours, students are referred right there. But to have this level of response on campus and for our students, like Scott said, right off campus, is going to be a game changer. Yeah.
So just another piece of how the university has included us and we're partnering with that, and that resource will be available to us at no cost.
Any other questions? Yes.
Have you guys heard of ACER before? It's Adverse Childhood
Oh, ACEs?
ACERT.
Oh, ACERT.
It's like it's for trauma responses
Okay.
where children are involved, if
Yep.
you will.
Okay.
Lakes Region Community Services has a vice president that works there that created that program, who works in tandem with police departments
Yep.
when they're on calls, and there's children there.
Yeah.
That might be a good
Excellent.
resource.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can send you that information.
Oh, that would be great.
Directly in contact with them.
That would be great. Can I borrow your pen? I'm sorry.
Okay.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
It's ACERT,
Great.
Adverse Childhood Experiences Response Team.
Response team. Yeah, because I'm familiar with ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences. So
Okay,
this is
yeah.
the response team part of that. Excellent. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'll get you that email this week.
Thanks. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions from,
I got one, I guess. Not to be too self-interested, but in this new spirit of collaboration and cooperation between the town and the school, one thing that happened during the deterioration of that relationship was the removal of the list of local landlords page from your website, and it was replaced by a pay-to-play website called Places for Students. And I know I heard President Burke's lament during the town select board meeting about how they've lost, prospective employees, staff, faculty, and whatnot because they have not been able to find a place to live. I was thinking that maybe instead of having the algorithm or the word of mouth have to connect people, it might be time to throw a simple page of established local landlords back on the website as a gesture.
I appreciate that suggestion. Can I borrow this
you
again?
can
Thank
borrow
you.
my pen for as long as you need it.
I will connect with our communications and marketing team on that, and also ResLife. I know that we changed platforms for our website, so a lot that we used to have, it's been streamlined, but I appreciate the suggestion, and I'll definitely follow up on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I was waiting for you to finish writing.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring my
Anything-
own pen next time.
It's okay, you could always borrow mine. Anything else? Okay, well, let's call it a wrap. Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Jess and Scott, for all your insightful and timely information.
Thank you. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Do you have another meeting scheduled for before school, or?
We don't, but we should.